Red Lobster has been one of America's most popular seafood chains for decades, recently famous for their endless shrimp special. But they've been closing hundreds of restaurants and even filed for bankruptcy. I wanted to find out what happened, and I discovered the real reasons for Red Lobster's decline. Was America's appetite for endless shrimp responsible for their downfall? Let's find out. This is Profit Hawk. Welcome to Profit Hawk, where we analyze business achievements and failures, breaking down why a company works or why it doesn't, and the lessons we can apply for future success. Today, we're looking at Red Lobster. There's been a lot of news recently about how they're shuttering restaurants and filing for bankruptcy. Some articles even blame their famous endless shrimp special for causing all their financial problems. It's a tasty headline, but I was skeptical. How did a company with more than 700 locations and 64 million customers a year begin to fail? To figure this out, we need to understand the history of Red Lobster. This is a story that takes us all the way back to its founding in 1968 in Lakeland, Florida. The first location was opened by Charlie Woodsby and his business partner, Bill Darden, an owner of several Howard Johnson restaurants. Their goal was to bring seafood to landlocked people in Middle America at affordable prices. Within 2 years, they had expanded the restaurant to 3 locations in the state, but lacked the resources to expand further. So they caught the attention of food giant General Mills, who acquired the brand. With the extra funding, Red Lobster quickly opened locations across the South, and by the mid-1980s, they were operating almost 400 restaurants and doing $800 million in annual sales. General Mills eventually decided to spin off its restaurant division into a new company, Darden Restaurants, in 1995. They named it for Red Lobster founder Bill Darden, who died the year prior. This company was in charge of both Red Lobster and Italian chain Olive Garden. Darden Restaurants continued acquiring fast-growing chains over the next decade. Eventually, Olive Garden sales began to overtake Red Lobster, and Darden's focus was elsewhere as it prioritized its other brands. Things at Red Lobster slowly deteriorated. With some ironic foreshadowing, they advertised a short-lived endless crab deal in 2003. It became very popular with customers, but cost the company $3.3 million in only 7 weeks before the deal was canceled. As sales dipped into the next decade, Darden Restaurants began company layoffs. Stock investors pressured the company's management to sell the Red Lobster brand. Finally, in May 2014, Red Lobster was sold to Golden Gate Capital, a private equity firm, for $2.1 billion. To help fund the acquisition, Golden Gate Capital made Red Lobster spin off its own real estate assets in what's called a sale-leaseback agreement. This type of deal allows a company to sell an asset to raise capital and then lease that asset back from the purchaser. This way, a company can acquire cash and still use the asset it needs. This compromise netted Golden Gate Capital $1.5 billion to help finance the Red Lobster purchase. But as a result, Red Lobster would now be paying rent to lease the property of its own restaurants. Lack of property ownership also meant they could no longer benefit from any commercial real estate appreciation. The private equity purchase of Red Lobster significantly increased the restaurant chain's debt and added higher interest costs. In 2017, the Moody's ratings agency downgraded Red Lobster to a negative financial outlook, citing the chain's persistently high debt. Red Lobster also began facing more competition in the casual dining sector, including chains with lower prices, drive-through locations, and online delivery. So how could Red Lobster recover? Well, it's time to introduce a company called Thai Union Group. Thai Union is a major seafood producer and distributor based in Thailand. They have been the top supplier of shrimp to Red Lobster for nearly 30 years. So despite Red Lobster's financial situation, Thai Union Group saw them as an opportunity to expand its own seafood supply business. Thai Union didn't have much experience running a restaurant company in the United States. Regardless, they took a 25% stake in the brand in 2016 and bought the remainder from Golden Gate Capital in 2020. Under Thai Union's ownership, Red Lobster began forcing huge cost reductions. Competing inventory suppliers were cut out, and restaurant waitstaff shrunk to save labor costs. Waiters who were covering 3 tables at a time now had to cover 10. Even the menu changed based on Thai Union's own tastes rather than Red Lobster customers. Restaurant decor, marketing, and food quality were also affected. Naturally, Thai Union's heavy-handed approach to cost-cutting induced major leadership disruptions at Red Lobster. Over the past 5 years, Red Lobster has churned through a stunning 5 different chief executives, not to mention the chief financial officer, marketing officer, and the list goes on. Imagine you're being hired to lead a company, all excited and ready to go, but then you walk around the offices and slowly realize, what the heck are we doing here, guys? If you're aware of all the challenges and disagree with what your parent company is imposing on you, you're not going to stick around long. Les Foreman, a Red Lobster vice president with 20 years of experience at the company, said, quote, "It was miserable working there for the last 1.5 years I was there. Thai Union didn't have any idea about running a restaurant company in the United States." By 2023, Red Lobster was in a dire financial situation, and Thai Union needed to do something big to retain customers. So in came the most famous decision of all. Exactly 20 years after Red Lobster's infamous Endless Crab Special cost the company millions, we see a permanent new menu item, Endless Shrimp. Thai Union Group saw this deal as a great way to attract customers and sell more of the shrimp it was catching in Thailand. And as everyone predicted, the special was a hit. Thai Union's CEO said they expected a 20% increase in customer traffic, but it was closer to 40%. The overwhelming popularity of endless food had several consequences. Customers sat at tables for long stretches of time eating multiple courses of shrimp. This had the domino effect of slowing down service among the stressed wait staff and creating longer wait times. The Endless Shrimp Special ultimately contributed to Red Lobster's $76 million loss by the end of 2023. But hey, do you remember that real estate deal? Well, during this time, Red Lobster also became stuck with leases they were unable to pay. Rent payments totaled nearly $200 million per year, which was a sizable chunk of its total revenue. Not surprisingly, Red Lobster's parent company is now looking to cut their losses. Thai Union's CEO acknowledged on an earnings call that they're looking to sell the company. Quote, "We're not expecting to get anything much from the sale. Profits remain elusive." He added that the whole situation left a big scar. Quote, "Other people stop eating beef," he said. "I'm going to stop eating lobster." In May of 2024, Red Lobster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection with over $1 billion in debt and less than $30 million in cash on hand. They've begun closing over 100 restaurants across the country, but some restaurants remain open, and a restructuring specialist has been hired to lead them through the bankruptcy. To sum up their problems nicely, Red Lobster's CEO acknowledged in a bankruptcy filing that they struggled with, quote, "a bloated and underperforming restaurant footprint, failed or ill-advised strategic initiatives, and increased competition within the restaurant industry." So what have we learned? Declining sales led to the company being sold multiple times. First to private equity with a real estate leaseback agreement, then to an offshore seafood company with no experience in the domestic restaurant business. This led to major changes in executive leadership and some questionable decision-making by those left over. So let's be clear. Endless Shrimp was not Red Lobster's only mistake. The company was on the decline for years prior. This deal was one failed attempt at resuscitating their financial situation. Endless Shrimp makes good headlines because it's customer-facing and easy to identify. So what happens now? Ultimately, Red Lobster will need to get through their bankruptcy. For a restaurant that's been around nearly 60 years, how many more do they have left? Where they go next remains to be seen. This is Profit Hawk. Thank you all very much for watching. If you thought the downfall of Red Lobster was bad, check out the story of Kmart. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.